What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Today, we are taking a look at some more trade rumors around the National Hockey League. And we're heading back to Long Island to take a look at the New York Islanders. Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson have been generating a lot of interest for the New York Islanders as the Islanders just finished a 6-game winning streak, now winning 7 of their past 8 games. A recent victory over the Vegas Golden Knights, a really gutsy win. The Islanders are still in the chase, but teams are still calling. Teams are still calling about some of the Islanders' pending UFAs. They're some of the biggest names on the market. So we're going to take a look at Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri. So let's start off with this report we've heard from the fourth period. A lot of these teams have been talked about the last 2 weeks with the New York Islanders and Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri, but now I figured we're getting a better idea of just how consistent these rumors are. There's definitely something to it. The fact we keep hearing about it, what's that saying? When there's smoke, there's usually fire underneath that. And that's kind of what seems to be brewing in this situation with the Islanders. I think they're going to wait it out, though. They're going to wait and see where they're kind of sitting closer to the trade deadline. I could see if Lou Lamoriello does pull the trigger on trying to move these guys out, it's going to be on the deadline day. I think he really wants to see how far this Islanders team can come. Are they in a playoff spot by the time we get to the deadline? Because that's one of the things, too, right? Like, as much as the Islanders have been playing well, let's not forget the fact they just lost Matt Barzal, who could be out the rest of the season. They've basically been without Varlamov really since November. So that's a tough loss. So Roken was playing a lot, and it seemed like that was affecting his game. The Islanders' third goalie got injured. The Islanders' defense is completely... That's why they've had to bring in all these guys like D'Angelo, Perunovic, Boqvist, because the Islanders' defense is destroyed with injuries. So that's kind of why, despite the Islanders winning and things like that, looking at the context of the situation, there's still reason to believe the Islanders are going to be sellers at the deadline, even though they are playing so well recently. So this is from the fourth period. He said, the Winnipeg Jets, the Washington Capitals, the Minnesota Wild, the Boston Bruins, the Colorado Avalanche, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have been linked to Brock Nelson. I'm going to assume, I'm not really going to look too much into the teams and what kind of package they can make here. I think in terms of prospects, you're not really looking at probably a big prospect. I think the Islanders are probably going to get draft picks coming back. And I hate to say that, but I think with where Nelson's value is at, it's going to be hard to find teams making that type of move right now where they're moving out young prospects that could come up soon. And honestly, for most of these teams, they don't really have a ton of the prospects. I mean, you could say Columbus is in that conversation, or maybe the Capitals. But really, a lot of these teams, they're probably going to be throwing you a draft pick, probably a first-round pick for Nelson. I think it's really interesting because we've been hearing a lot about Nelson and Palmieri, but apparently the guy that's drawn the most interest out of the Islanders players available is Pageau. Pageau has been a guy that a lot of teams very highly value. He's a great two-way player. He can jump on the power play, jump on the penalty kill. He's a pain in the ass to play against. A lot of teams like Jean-Gabriel Pageau. But we haven't really heard much about that since. I don't think the Islanders are really looking to trade him out right now. There was a lot of talk last summer, maybe Carolina, like things were really close there to getting him to the Hurricanes. Things obviously fell through. Now Carolina's got their guy, and Mikko Rantanen. We'll see how long that lasts. But swinging this back to Nelson, it makes a lot of sense because all of these teams are looking for either a second or a third line center on their team, and even for some like Washington, Boston, even the Blue Jackets. I mean, there's a chance he could be the top line center depending on how things go. It depends on how things are working for the team at that moment. You have to remember that too. But I'm really interested to see, like, the Minnesota Wild thing has been talked about forever for Brock Nelson. He's from Minnesota. There's a lot of connection there. And Brock Nelson has fallen off. In October, he always has Brocktober. He plays great in the first month of the season and then falls off. The last month or two, Brock Nelson has been playing well, and I think his agent reminded him, like, Brock, you got a new contract coming up this summer. So Brock Nelson's name is being floated around. A lot of teams are interested in him. They see him scoring a lot for the Islanders recently. He's going to be a guy to watch for going into the deadline. He's that perfect center. He's tough to play against in the playoffs. He's a big body. He wins a lot of faceoffs. I saw him the other night against the Vegas Golden Knights, he was cooking in the faceoff department. Brock Nelson wins a lot of faceoffs. He scored a goal in that game. He scores a lot, right? This is a dynamic center. And when everybody talked about JT Miller and what his value could be, now I think, honestly, there's going to be probably more value in Brock Nelson at this deadline. So, like I said, Winnipeg, Washington, Minnesota, Boston, Colorado, Columbus, and Toronto all seem to have interest there. So keep an eye out for those teams. So that's the latest on Nelson. And this one hurts because Kyle Palmieri, he's a Long Island guy. He's, obviously has connections to New Jersey as well. But Kyle Palmieri's name has been mentioned in the rumor mill as well. Also from the fourth period, they said the Canucks, Avalanche, and the Kings have been linked to Kyle Palmieri. Makes a lot of sense, right? Looking to add some scoring depth on the wing. Kyle Palmieri perfectly fits that bill. He's one of the better wingers available at this year's deadline. And I'm surprised they didn't mention it here from the fourth period, but I've been hearing a lot of rumblings. The New Jersey Devils probably wouldn't mind a reuniting with Kyle Palmieri. There's obviously ties to Palms, playing in New Jersey, growing up in New Jersey. So there's definitely a connection there. Don't be surprised if the Devils end up landing Kyle Palmieri, but there's other teams in the mix as well on the West Coast. And, the Canucks is kind of interesting because I think they're going to try and pull a Marcus Pettersson if they were to acquire him. Like, they know that they're not going to maybe make the playoffs this year, especially trading Miller and things like that. So this is a guy where you're basically a sign and trade is probably going to be expected. They're going to definitely make sure, like, hey, Palms, are you interested in playing here? That's what that's probably going to come down to. The Avalanche and the Kings definitely could be more of a rental. And it also depends on what his value is, right? Like, if teams are asking for just a first-round pick for Palmieri, like, that might keep other teams out of the mix, right? Like, the Canucks traded the Rangers' first-round pick. I think they still have their own. Would they want to trade their own first? Would the Kings want to trade their own first? Colorado, maybe for a different reason because they're trying to stockpile again. So, I don't know. This is going to be an interesting one. The Avalanche are going to make another move here. They've been linked to a lot of different players. They've been linked to both Nelson and Palmieri. They've been linked to Besser. They've been linked to anybody that's on the market. The Avalanche have definitely tipped their toe in that conversation. And especially since losing Rantanen, this is a team still in their prime, right? Like, you've got Cal McCarr. You've still got McKinnon. You have all the young players on this team as well. There's reason for them to think they could still go and acquire somebody like Kyle Palmieri, despite what happened with the Mikko Rantanen trade. And that's kind of it. So thank you so much for watching today's video. If you like this content, want to see more videos like it, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.